So I haven't talked to you for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 weeks.
A lot of crazy things going on out there. I mean, there's information everywhere about this, that, and everything else. I don't know. What do you think?
It's hard to know what's really going on.
But we do keep getting the word sovereign and your sovereign being. And I mean, I'm hearing it. Are you hearing it?
Yeah, in the in certain circles, certainly not from everyone.
No, but it's
You
also
know,
being said that this is being done to protect your sovereignty.
yeah, in terms of the political side of things.
Well, in the Constitution,
Yeah, well, we have a lot to talk about in terms of the Constitution. I mean, we do have the the most the one that provides the most freedom,
yeah, and we're
supposedly.
and our relationship. I mean, our Constitution is unique. It's the only one on the planet that gives you rights.
Yeah, your God-given rights.
Yes, your God-given rights. Every other constitution on
Uh,
the planet, those rights are bestowed by some human being who is the king or the emperor or some other political body is giving you the rights and not your relationship with your own creator.
yeah, and we go along with it.
Do we know any better?
Not well, some of us do.
Okay. But I think, yeah, and there's a lot
Yeah.
that haven't arrived at that viewpoint. Let's put it that way.
No, no, it's a very interesting thing to deal on your own sovereignty.
Well, sure. And no matter what the name of the religion is, we got them all over the planet. Okay. Different cultures, different ideology. Every one of them still talking about our life source. I don't know how many people think about their life source. They wake up every morning, they're the same person. How did that happen? But yeah, all of whatever's being done out there is supposedly being done to protect our sovereignty. They talk about um, money and blockchain, and that then becomes solely yours, so on and so forth. And that's another level of sovereignty, if you will. I mean, after all, what is money? Money is something that, for the most part, most people get because they use their life energy
Yeah.
performing some task.
It's your energy concretized, yeah.
Yeah, and it gets turned into a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people realize that. But no matter what, it all comes back in all of these dialogues is that our rights for having been born on this planet are considered sovereign. They're considered, each of us, it's our rights. It's also, we have, each of us has a soul and it's individual. No two souls are exactly the same, because that soul is like your house of history. All of your incarnations, all the history of any lives you've ever lived are stored there.
And you've said in the past that you are the culmination of all of your experience in the current moment. That's what you're capable of expressing.
Right. Well, yes, that's when I talk about the soul. In fact, all those lives are synthesized together, and they are the equivalent of your understanding of the world. Well, you talk to yourself, right? And you get an answer back.
It's a lot of cursing to myself, but yeah, sure. I'm just kidding.
No, but you'll look
Uh,
and see something, and then you think, gee, what does that mean? And you're looking within for the answer, unless it's a building falling down and there's somebody standing next to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do all have a soul. You know, most people aren't aware of it.
Yeah. Most do not even talk like that.
No,
That even the Christians don't speak on their soul, talk about their soul
no, they just
much at all.
save it.
Yeah.
And they're under the impression that somebody else is after it.
Right. Yeah. That's it though. That's where it really stops. Yeah.
You don't get the rest of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we live with ourselves 24 hours a day. You know, no matter what you do, you know, you can try to escape it, but it's still you. You're feeding the drugs to, if it's drugs, to escape it. And all of that gets saved. All of that becomes part of who you are. So if we're living with each other or with ourselves 24 hours a day, maybe it'd be good if we understood a little bit more about ourselves.
To whatever extent we can know something here, yeah, that'd be good.
Well, isn't that why you do your studying? And I would think that that's why a lot of the material, there's a lot of material out there that helps you understand that. And some of it seems to be relatively advanced right now compared to our daily function. If you can find it, where do you go?
Well, I'm only reading one book anymore these days for now, and that's Ray's Initiations. That's it. I haven't opened up. Well, I haven't even read Life and Teaching, teachings in a while.
Yeah, most people aren't going to have a clue what that is. So
It explains the initiation process, that are steps and stages to our expansions of consciousness and evolution. I I think I think the draw to it is once you recognize some once you recognize eternity, once you know that this is eternity, I think then at some point, whatever that means, then you also recognize some of the implications of that, which are, well, now you have to act like it. Now you have to learn how to behave in eternity.
it's a long journey.
Yeah, so I think you have to at least start making the attempt to get in line with that understanding, and that can require a lot of heavy duty changes. It's like the lesson plan on how to live in the higher levels of this and into the now and eternity and the aeons and however infinity, whatever.
And what does that do for us?
Well, this material is coming from higher levels, so it can raise us up with it to those two higher levels.
And what's the benefit of that?
Well, the expansions of consciousness as we make ourselves ready and prepared for them.
But where's it going to get you?
Well, that's the mystery.
No, a quick trip through Life and Teachings indicates to you that we, human beings, have the possibility to live literally forever.
Yeah, there's no death.
There is no death. Once you know how to work this piece of equipment that you're running around with called your body,
Yeah.
you can bring yourself to the point where, yeah, you not only that, but you can feed yourself without having to go to the grocery store. You order your dinner in, if you will, right?
Yeah, that's what they say.
And that is evidently what was seen by a group of researchers in 1894. They spent 3 years over there. Okay, so we get a better life on an everyday basis? Question mark. Is that
Well,
what
it's a lot more relaxed.
Well, no, I'm asking,
I mean,
do you consider it a better quality of life? I mean, think about wherever you were, whatever your life was, whatever you are experiencing now, because that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah. Is it a better? It's absolutely a better quality of life. I think you end up being much more concerned about other people's understanding for a while until you can relax about that as well, because you want to share it with everyone initially, but then it takes a while to figure out that maybe not everybody's going to grasp that at the same time that you did.
Can I short circuit that and say, are you telling me that you used to be an asshole and now you're a nice guy?
Well, I think I was overzealous. Yeah, probably overzealous about
And
all of it.
might that have been interpreted by other people as you being an asshole?
I absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when you start talking about a lot of the things that people do not want to hear because it, shakes the apple cart, you know. So yeah, the growing up part of it is becoming comfortable in not being an asshole.
Being a nice guy, huh?
Just being, yeah, even in the face of ignorance. That's and my, I always said this from the beginning though. I if I didn't like something, it's it's ignorance, and I despise even my own ignorance. So yeah, that- I'm actually easier. I was even when I was like that, I was easier on other people than I was on myself.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, where does integrity come in on this?
Uh, that's interesting. I think I think I think it becomes inherent at some point, or it's just implicit.
The other day I saw somebody who um, stole a couple things. Okay.
Oh,
Cleverly, not
huh.
your standard, just pick it up out of the store and walk out stealing that way, but cleverly stealing it. And it was probably worth 50 cents. Okay. But in that process, they sold their integrity for 50 cents.
Right. That's all you really. Yeah, it's all you got. Right? Is that?
Yeah. I mean, and the thing about it is, integrity for me has been a big deal all my life. And I've been in a lot of environments where it would have been easy to have taken things that weren't mine. Okay. And not even a dime would I be off. I dealt with, I've been in business. I've had operated businesses for other people. Cash goes in and out of those drawers all the time. But you can only takes one move to lose your integrity. And that can be as little as a dime, but you've done it. And that's an important thing to think about.
And when you say you lose it to yourself.
Yeah, but then you lose it to your journey upward.
Mm.
Well, your truth, your word is your honor, for example, etc. Those are all parts of that. And where are you going on this journey? Every level up that chart that you've got moves you into stronger integral parts and truth.
Yeah.
Lies don't get you anywhere.
Right.
They
Well,
anchor,
it's certainly not worth it. I mean, yeah.
but they anchor you downward. They anchor you on whatever level you were there, trying to rise with a bunch of lies. You're not going to get anywhere, because eventually a piece of truth is going to come in and it's going to knock that whole, it's like a Jenga when, okay, you pull one piece out and the whole thing falls. And that if you can't live fundamentally on truth,
Right.
whatever world you built will be pulled out from underneath you at some point.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's an interesting thing. But I also think that at some point you probably just are honest all the time.
Well, that's the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, you
What
just
I,
are.
but what I'm saying is a lot of people figure, oh, that's just a nickel dime thing, you know, doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it could even be just doing any harm,
Yes.
just any kind of knowingly, right? Like,
Yeah.
or just selfishness.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, selfishness is ugly. But we don't see that either, though. That's hard to see. We think we're just doing what everybody else is doing. You know, even in the real estate deals and all of this stuff, it's hard to maintain your integrity in this world. You have to stand up for yourself in a big way
Yeah, you do.
and be prepared to lose a lot and lose often.
But what are we losing?
Then nothing, but
What does it look like we're losing then?
to others it might look like you're losing something. I think.
Translate it is, are you losing dollars? Are you losing, what are you losing?
Well, everything. I think you. I think you end up losing a lot to maintain your own sovereignty and peace and stay honest. You're giving up a lot. There's a lot of sacrifice in that, and it's wrapped up in that.
And so why would then, what is the benefit of being truthful and honest and having integrity?
Well, you can be comfortable in yourself, and that's really all that matters. And there's a lot, and there is peace in that.
Versus living hell.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big difference. No stress or anxiety. How you gonna have stress or anxiety when you're just always who you are? When when you're just being yourself, that's who you're willing to be. Like I said, not in this short, what we think is a short life, though. I guess who you're willing to be in, the long run, or who you see yourself being in the long run. Not to say that it doesn't take some time to get used to it, though.
What, being honest?
All of it. Yeah, I think that's why it's a process. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe a few decades back or a century or two, there was a premium on honesty and integrity, but isn't one today that I can see unless you invest in that premium yourself with being yourself, honest, integrity, kindness, understanding ultimately that we are one, which is pretty hard for people to realize. We got people who look different color, different languages, etc., etc., and we think of them as all being different. But
Yeah.
as a humanity, we are all one. In other words, the whatever created, whoever the creator is, I'm not going to use all the different names that could be used. It would be a very long list on this planet, but whoever that creator is, he sustains life in every human being who's walking around on this planet.
In every instant.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
tough one too.
And that's one of the things when I teach class, especially, and now I'm talking about astrology class, and I start out, first thing I say is there's no bad signs. Okay. Because people will have a liking for certain other signs relative to who they are, and there'll be a dislike or a hesitancy on the part of others. That's That's just the geometry of the circle.
Mm.
So and no bad signs. And then when you start pointing out this person's doing that wrong and boom, 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 and I just say, look, and the creator sustains the life force in every one of those people you're pointing to and the rest of the people on the planet. And there's some reason for it. I don't have the reason, but I understand there is a reason that's beyond my understanding. And I'm going to accept that.
Yeah, that's a big one. That it's all happening, in the same moment, all of it. That's
Yes.
that's a tough one to wrap our heads around. And that we're all one. That's also a tough one because I think you can get it even if you see it for a second or it's elusive. You can't really hang on to that.
But then you did a tape on a woman who had an epiphany
Yeah.
of, in a sense, seeing
Mm-hmm.
in a very short period of time that it is all one and everything is okay.
Yeah.
You should run that one again because there are people on the planet over, throughout time that do have that understanding. They get a glimpse. It's a larger glimpse of the whole scenario and are capable of understanding it. And then they find their own internal peace also, correct?
Yeah, I think that there comes when we study it and we see it, there comes the understanding that everything is as it's supposed to be, so you can relax.
Right.
And you're not really the doer in it so much either. You're not doing it.
But I think on that one, you almost have to have that viewpoint like an epiphany that just comes to you and overwhelms you with the vision.
I'm sure.
Throw the words out and like I'm saying it and really have it have that impact.
Yeah, the concept is different than the experience, or the knowledge is different than the experience of it.
Yeah.
I know, and DK says something pretty interesting. DK says that all wisdom is knowledge gained by experience and implemented by love. So, knowledge gained by experience. So you have to have the experience, I guess.
Right. But for the woman that we were talking about who saw that was her. Now, other people might think I got to have that experience by going through hell and doing this and doing that and doing that to learn they aren't the ones. And then I got to go do that. And they don't have a jump and a leap. They figure they've got to go through it all. That makes any sense.
Oh, that's certainly interesting.
Well, okay, let's figure out how old you are. Then let's take 30 years away. Okay. Imagine where you were.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is I think you had to go have all these experiences that you were having at that point in time because that was life. And the framework you have now would have had a hell of a time trying to fit into your world back then.
Right. Oh, yeah. Certainly.
But you got here.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. What a mind job that is, huh?
Yeah, that's why people make the journey to the east, if you will.
There's a lot going on out there. There's a lot of confusing stuff happening to work through.
Yeah. And so when that's happening, how do you manage it? How do you do it?
You have to go inward. Right?
And
I don't understand what you mean by that.
Okay, so I go inward. All right, I'm inward. What's happening? Do I have
Oh,
do I have to look inward? Do I just put blinders on my eyes? Am I
mm,
asking inward questions? Am I searching inward? What's inward? You know, do I eat a peanut butter sandwich and now it's inward?
yeah.
In other words, what does looking inward mean?
Well, I think that's a process too, isn't it?
I don't know. Tell me. You're
I
the one.
think it is. For me, it was certainly it certainly is a process of observation and becoming aware of, you know, this life and the way, you know, your astrology chart and seeing through the emotions and getting through the emotions of it all, because that is very hefty. Uh,
Yes.
and then and then start, you know, working through the after that, you know, working through the, I guess, illusion and working through.
Observer. What are we talking about, really? Do you just stop and observe what's going on inside? Because it runs like a freight train in there, from one thing to the other. We think we're thinking it. We think we're generating this.
Mm.
It's literally like a freight train that just keeps running through and's got information and ideas and feelings and all of this and that, lays them on you and you suck it up.
There's a lot of work that has to be done in all of this, I think, though. Actually, you know, this is not easy to. I don't know that I would be able to make that succinct connection with all of the things that have to happen. But becoming aware of your own patterns, I think, is very important. And then, you know, they say, you know, that I heard them say, you know, if you can stop thinking for 5 seconds, you're doing good. That like 8 years ago, I heard somebody say that, and they said if you can get to 10 seconds, well, then you're good. You're fine. You've done the work that you need to do. And when you first start observing yourself and you see how long you can be quiet, it really is just a second or so in the, you know, early on in it. And so it's very difficult to observe from that position when you've got all of the emotions and thoughts running through there. But after a while, you can, you know, you do the work. I guess I don't know what else I would call it, of observing. You know, really observing,
Yeah,
and then seeing what's valid. You know, what is what I'm thinking have any validity uh, in my life? It is, are these emotions that I'm having, do they apply intelligently in these situations? I think is first thing, and then if you can observe your emotions, well, then you know that they're not valid most of the time at all. Sometimes it's important to be able to use what appears to be emotions with talking to kids and people, because otherwise that's part of communication. It's part of intelligent communication. But it's just disrupting your own beingness. And then, you know, moving into the mental patterns that you've got and your behaviors that are making you emotional. So there's a lot going on there. Where do
right.
you,
But
you're trying to extract something from me, and I don't.
yeah, so let's go back to the chart that you use all the time.
Yeah,
Where are emotions and where is the mental?
yeah. All the way on the bottom, the lower three. Yeah, so.
Okay. No, but you have a section for the emotional, that's the astral
Right,
plane.
that's the astral plane, and then the mental plane.
And for the mental plane.
Yeah.
And what's happening is right now in any transition, because you experience the the astral, you experience the astral first in history. We get emotional before we get mental. You experience the emotional, and humanity has gone through an emotional development initially to start with, the astral plane that built it out. Talk about the Atlantean generation or civilization, should say civilization. And that was on the astral plane. That was not on the mental plane. And that was a long time ago. But so we moved up, and you were kind of banting the words around as that we put our emotion in there, and that's our intelligent communication. And what I'm saying is there's a progressionary level there where we move, because you're not going to get to truth. And now I'm talking about actual energy in terms of, for example, the design of the world we're living in. Okay. And the scaffolding, if you will, that's really there in place that we need to work with. And if we don't work with it, we can have a rough and tumble time here living. Okay.
That's a good word, a good way to put it. Yeah.
It sure as hell is. Look at the people out there. It's tough. I know that. So anyway, I was just commenting on a couple of things you had indicated there, because you move up that chart, if you will, into the realms of truth. And the only time that you're going to get close to that is on that mental plane, because prior to that, on that astral plane, everything is fluid. It changes from minute to minute, second to second sometimes. Try to hold an emotion. How long can you hold it? It's almost instantaneous, and it's going to have gravitated a little bit to somewhere else.
Yeah, roller coaster ride. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can be aware of the difference of those two, because what's happening now is we're starting to move up onto the mental plane. And so they call it kama manasic. It's a blend. So we're not still thinking straight mental. It's mixed with emotions. It's like the Jello that you mix with the whipped cream. That's kind of the way it is to me. And we don't really get anywhere, as far as I'm concerned, on this planet till you hit the mental plane. I mean, we are at a system that's got 7 levels. We're at 2.6, humanity in general, on the overall. We got a ways to go.
Yeah, getting through the emotional nature would be quite beneficial for everyone there.
Yeah, and the upsettedness of the emotional nature it's tied to Neptune. And so are the drugs that are the escape from being stuck in that emotional nature that hurts, that makes one feel weakened.
Yeah.
Etc. etc. And certain plants in the plant kingdom are addicting. And certainly the chemistry that's now made that doesn't have to rely on the plant kingdom is not good for the chemical design, makeup and design. It chemically, it'll destroy the physicality we have to a point where it's not functional like it should be. So it's then, because a lot of that stuff is not organic, that's chemically made, it's acidic, it burns, it just destroys the organic.
And the interesting thing is that and DK says the drugs stimulate the astral consciousness.
Yes, they do.
So even if you were working up higher into the mental levels, you're dropping yourself back down lower at that point.
Mhm.
And getting wrapped up into all manner of what's in that. So and now you trapped yourself again, in a sense.
Yep.
Without knowing it, and you're kind of lost at sea in the mosh pit again. And because I've seen this happen a number of times, uh, with some people who've done, they're using these psycho spiritual. They call them psycho spiritual drugs now, and they're using mushrooms and some other drugs to, correct stress or anxiety or have some sort of experience. But then they get locked into whatever idealism that they've pulled from that experience, or whatever vision they had of some dream state, and then now they're locked back in, and I imagine you just put yourself behind bars in a big way.
Yeah.
So
Because that is, most of those drugs deal with the astral plane,
yeah,
and they've got their agenda. And we're an electromagnetic creature. So you build a magnetism, you build the thing that draws you, and you just keep getting drawn back in there. So if that's the range in the realm you're playing in, okay, then
yeah.
the magnetism is there, and you just jumped back into it, and you will get pulled back and pulled back and pulled back.
Yeah, and now the emotional nature stirs back up again, and now you're getting back into things that maybe you wouldn't have been into or have moved beyond.
Yes. Well, and the other thing to understand is Neptune itself, which represents that kind of emotional energy here, is, first of all, it doesn't even function in time. So it can show up anywhere, anytime, and make you believe anything that you can see. You think it creates it. And it is idealism at its finest. But we're only supposed to have a little dose of it. In other words, in a chart, you have a planet, Neptune, you have a sign, Pisces, which rules it, and you have a 12th house, which is where it normally resides, hidden back there. And everybody gets a little dose so that humanity on the overall moves towards an ideal, but not so heavy duty fast that they imagine things that can't possibly happen here. Normally it should move just a little bit, and then you've got the rest of your world stable. In terms of, you got a mom, a dad, you got kids, you got a home, you got friends, you got work. In other words, all these things that consist of a life for us. You get an overdose of the Neptune, and none of that is going to be of interest anymore because it's not good enough. There's a more idealistic somewhere. You've experienced it because, like I said, you think it, that energy will become it. And you know for sure that that can happen. And now you are not satisfied with less than that kind of energy, which cannot function here and create what you want. So actually, when children get a heavy dose of that in their charts, then it denies them their ego, and they have a real hard time here because they don't feel strength, they don't feel strong enough. Because they're living in a world that doesn't exist here on its own and cannot exist in heavy doses. Same with the drugs. It shows them a world that's more beautiful than the one they're living in, and it just gets tougher and tougher to come back and try to live in that world relative to the dosages you're using.
Yeah. Do you think that, in one of the, and I don't know what we're looking at here, maybe Pluto or something, that a lot of the collective knows something's very wrong here, though, in that. I mean, a lot of them know. We don't know how it's wrong. We don't know exactly how to pinpoint it. We certainly don't know how to change it because nobody's really been telling us much about how to do that.
Okay, so let me short circuit that. You mean we're not happy?
Yeah, no, we're not.
That we've got every day doesn't have those happy moments, in a sense, because what humanity may have evaluated as being happy, in other words, a reasonable life for every one of us on this planet, isn't happening right now, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but unless you really have got the strength to go make something happen that you want to happen, and if you don't have that, if you aren't willing to plow through, then you're going to just fall into or accept this world and not know how to fight back. I think more than anything else, that's part of exactly what's happened at this point is the world that we had, the world I grew up in. I mean, didn't have a lot of money or anything like that. But I had a life where, I loved to be outdoors. I could be outdoors, I could build tree forts. I could do things that I like to do. And I wasn't stopped from doing them. And yeah, I had to study hard, but not as I didn't want to study that hard. But my sister tells me that my mother was on my case all the time. Yeah, it wasn't too grand, but I guess I managed to get past it. But if you don't feel like you're in control of your life and you can do some of the things that you want to do that make you happy, and in those days, it could also help you maintain your health because you're happy and you're healthy, we're somewhere coordinated. That at the moment isn't even there, but I don't know if that's what you're asking about.
Yeah, I think it's across the board, and not to say we didn't allow. It's not our own fault. I understand that we allowed a lot of these things to happen, but it got too far out of. We let it get too far out of control, I think.
Yeah, and like I said, the real key is here when you don't know how to rectify it. Okay, when you can't stand up to whatever it is and solve the problem. Yeah, then it's just going to pile on you and you get defeated. In today's world, I think I see that a lot.
Yeah, yeah, because we really don't know what's going on here for the
Now,
most
are
part.
you talking about
Just in general.
what does in general mean?
I mean, spiritually, we don't know. We're misinformed in a lot of cases, and then
Well, that's a big word now because
mass media is lying to there's a lot
yeah,
of lies and you know
yeah. But let's say you use the word spiritually, we don't know what's going on. Okay. That's spirituality is a big word, but I think it's used for so many different things, you know. And of course, I deal with a lot of people, and I do astrology charts, so they think that's spiritual,
mm,
okay. Or what, you go to the east because you're going to learn something about spirituality and their philosophy or whatever. We don't use that word much here because we had the age of Pisces is just leaving, but that was the age of Christianity. And I don't think Christianity was considered spiritual at all. Okay, it's religious. Okay, but not spiritual. Because let's talk about it. Okay, so all the things that the Christianity demonstrated for you, with their demonstrator being Jesus the Christ, if you will, he was in form. He had a body. He had a body until he got it pounded on the cross, and then you never saw it after that. He disappeared, and he's risen, resurrected, or whatever, but gone. Okay, but it was all still physical. You know, from what you're studying now, yeah, we have this lower three-dimensional world that we live in, but it's in a set of 9, and it's the bottom set, the first set of 3. That's it. Then, and so most people, when they want to come to me or they talk about spirituality, they just want a better car, a better house, a better boyfriend, or something like that. Okay. Well, spirituality is the next set of 3 in a system of 9, and you don't have a body. You don't need a house. You don't need a car. You don't need designer clothes or a great purse, or, you know, so all of the things that people were looking for down here,
Right.
they think we're being spiritual, was just an increase in of the physicality of the lower 3 dimensions. Okay. And what's the big deal down here? You've got to have food, shelter, and clothing. And so basically down here, you can't do much more than increase the quality of the food, shelter, or clothing. But you still need it. No matter what level you've got, you need it. Okay. The next level up, like I said, the next 3, you don't have a body, and you're conscious. You got your consciousness. Okay. But you don't need a house. You don't need a car. You don't need clothes. You don't need any of that. You are developing your consciousness, and you're not even creating it. You're figuring out what is on those planes. Okay. You're using your consciousness for it. Down here, you had to use your consciousness and create it to get to the level of your soul. And you were building, and this body is a conscious creating machine. You know, read The Physics of Consciousness by Walker. He'll explain every little bit of exactly how it works. Okay. We function on quantum mechanics. So, and until we get to that level with our soul, which technically on your chart would be an level number 3, subdivision 3. Okay. You're not going anywhere. You're just going to keep being incarnated here, and not at your will, at the will of your soul. So you come and go at their behest to do the work to get you to that point. Okay. But that's all physical. That world is a world with substance in it. The next one is not. It's consciousness, and it's that level of awareness, but it's no longer building consciousness. So you're not operating on inductive or deductive logic. You are on the down here where we are. So you think. Up there, you ain't thinking. You're just recognizing what is. Okay. On these higher levels. And then there is the third triplicity, which gets you ready to leave here. You're off this planet. Okay. And the processes that it takes to do that. That's our journeys. So, but the point is, the only it's only in this journey that we are in that we're talking about where we've got all this physical stuff is where most people are, because it takes work. And the part of the work is stuff you hinted at earlier. You know, if you want brownie points on going up, do a good deed for somebody. Okay, that's going to get you farther than any bank account or any set of new clothes or a fast car.
No, selflessness as opposed to selfishness.
I'm not sure everybody would think their car was selfish or so on and so forth, but it's kind. I think the best word would be kindness. Jewel used that in a song way back when, and in the end, only kindness matters. That was a great line. So we don't have to demean anybody by even talking about selfishness versus selflessness. It's just being kind. Because it's not pasted on anything else other than kindness.
Yeah. Interesting. And love, right? Or that love energy.
Believe if you're being kind and you're doing a kind deed,
yeah,
love is already in there. You don't even have to take it out and say, "Oh, I'm love now. I'm doing something loving." Okay. It's included in the action of the union of spirit and matter, which creates love. And this is our second system. And that's technical, but that's it. Just do a kindness somewhere out of the kindness of your heart. I mean, you don't go do the kindness to somebody that you want to score with or pick up, because there's no honesty in that. Okay. So if any young men or women or whatever go try to do it, so that's not going to work in terms of getting you the brownie points, because it wasn't an honest endeavor, you know.
That would change a lot too, just that alone.
It would change the whole world.
Yeah.
In Life and Teachings, they make a remark somewhere in one of there's 6 books in that, and I don't know, it's down in book 4 or 5, that because they're talking about you can live forever, but when you are born, you're given a certain amount of that energy, and so if you don't enhance the energy, then you're going to live a normal lifespan. Okay. But in other words, your actions, if they don't enhance that energy to build more of it, which is directed to goodness, kindness, going in that direction. And so they indicated that even with older people now, and I guess they were talking about people in their 70s and so on and so forth, could even extend where they are going to die a normal death. Okay. They're not living forever. Okay. They've wasted a lot of it or burned out a lot of the original energy they were given to sustain a lifetime here. But that they could add to that even towards the end with kind deeds and doing good for people. So you can always turn it around, but you have to do it in honesty and goodness within yourself.
Sincerity, yeah.
Yeah. Because then you're generating exactly what's needed to sustain life.
Yeah, it's tough.
Well, there's a saying, the good die young, but that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
And we never really know why people come and go.
Right.
I mean, you drive into a brick wall or something. You know, first of all, we are talking about the soul. We are talking about a number of incarnations. We don't have a history on all of those. We don't know what they talk about. The only way you get here is when the soul indicates it needs another incarnation. And it's for the purpose of the soul rounding out or development that your incarnation is going to happen. And you get incarnated and you live this life, but its purpose is for that soul. If you get too far off the mark of what the original intent was, if you go like to esoteric healing with the Bailey material that you were talking about, they will indicate that soul will, if it sees you going off track, probably generate a health problem to try to get you back on track, because it will create a problem where you can no longer stay off track. You've got to back up at least. Now, if for some reason you don't get back on track, then generally you aren't going to be here too long, because they've said, well, we've missed this mark, so pull it. And you have a health problem. The interesting thing they talk about is that health problems are related to the good, the beautiful, and the true. And when I first saw that, I thought, wow, that's nuts. But the good, the beautiful, and the true are related to our lower three realms that we live in. One represents each one.
Right.
If you are not doing something that aligns with the good or the beautiful or the true, depending upon where you are in your evolution, so on and so forth, and you're going to be going in the opposite direction in development than the soul wants. It doesn't want you to be down here and then you're lollygagging in such a way that the soul's now going to have 3 or 4 more extra incarnations just to get to where you are right now. Yeah. It might pull you off track, and you're gone. Okay. That's why I'm saying we don't know why people die.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, you drive into a brick wall, we know that it's apparent that isn't going to work. You drink Hylex bleach, that ain't going to work either. Okay. But the real inner part is, we don't have the psyche to figure that one out. That's not where our psyche is ranging. Like I said, a lot of people don't, everybody talks about the soul, but you're not going to be conscious of it in the early stages of this game. You don't get conscious of it until you hit the 3rd initiation. But, so I think with a lot of people right now, it was very focused in the Piscean age, the last 2,000 years, because you were always praying, make sure nobody stole your soul and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think we think much about it now.
No.
Okay. I don't even think necessarily that we think we have one. But like I said, the big question then is, why do you wake up each morning as the same person? I don't know if people think about that.
Right.
But that you are the synthesis of all your past history that you have accumulated living on this planet, and that soul is the house of history which keeps it all. And so as you learn things, then that soul also ages, if you will, and not technically in terms of time, but matures, so on and so forth. And that is who you wake up as every morning, is a synthesis of all that past history that's in your soul. That's what it's using. You got to get really hit on the head hard not to wake up as that person. They talk every once in a while, but somebody has a concussion and they can't remember who they are or something.
Right.
So you're thinking, what are you thinking about?
Well, we need people to be talking about this stuff more, a lot more.
When are you going to start? Oh, you could get one of those sandwich um things, that they used to run around. It's got a board in the front, board on the back, and then the straps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, something about the soul, and you could walk up and down the
The
street
street preacher.
or something like that. Just I got you could put one that says I have a soul inside, something like that. Where is yours? Or something like that. My soul is inside. Where is yours? Oh boy, I can see this coming. You still got some wood in that wood pile out there, don't you?
I got a lot of it.
Okay.
Plenty of it.
And it's the same with when you talk to yourself inside, or you're looking for meaning or you want to understand something. That's who's answering you back is your own soul. It's the only one you would listen to anyway. Think about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes people will ask me because when I'm doing charts about twins.
Right.
And they're saying, well, their lives are going to be exactly the same because their charts are the same because they're born close together. Okay. And I said, yeah, but it depends. I'm talking about their personalities. That's what that chart is, not their soul. So you can have one of them with an old soul that's had a lot of experience here and learned a lot of things. And you can have the other twin be a young soul. So that when they're given the same set of circumstances, they're going to react differently. So that's the answer to that one.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. No matter how you cut it, you have a life source. It sustains you. And what the average age expectation here in this planet now is into the 80s. If you're treating your body reasonable, like I said, there's a lot of organic chemistry you cannot put in and expect to have this body have general maintenance that's going to take you that long if you're destroying it. Okay. But basically we have that period of time to do whatever we're supposed to be doing here. But it's at the behest of the soul. And that soul may decide that it needs another reincarnation fairly early, or it's eons because that soul is really living in time. It's not like an elevator coming and going, going to the basement, coming up again, So, but the difference also is understand that for example, that chart you've got with the 7 levels with the 7 sub-levels called 49 fires. Okay. The bottom of it is in those bottom 3 layers are in time. The rest of it isn't in time at all. Big difference.
Yeah, I guess that's something you really can't know until you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is you, and I will use you as a personal example at this point in time, will talk to me a lot of times, but it's relating this world, these lower 3 layers, relative to something you're reading, which goes beyond time. And you can't do anything but try to come up with something relative to what you know in the lower 3 dimensions, when that's not the way it works there. But you can't help that because that's all you know.
Right.
Is this world in time. So for the other, let's put it this way. For us, if an incarnation takes 3,000 years to get to the next one, that would seem horrendous for us. If you're moving up a level, it's nothing. There was no time. There was no experience of time. It would be like the blink of an eye, and not even that long.
So would it be now? See, this is where I'm going to get messed up. So I'm going to ask questions. So does this? Is there any continuity in the time that we're experiencing in the lower three, or is it just gone?
What do you mean by, well,
I don't know. I don't know.
okay.
I don't know.
So look, here's the way the story
I mean,
goes.
not continuity in consciousness. Is there continuity here or there, or is there any?
Okay, here's the way the story goes. Quick version. Okay, you're living these lives in and out of this, those are synthesized. They're saved as vibrations or vibratory frequency or whatever words we want to use right now for each life and the information in it. That's why Santa Claus really does know if you're naughty or nice. Okay, God knows everything you do immediately. That those are not bullshit stories. They're real. Okay. We know every cell membrane in our body has a sender and a receiver. Okay. So you're continually up to date. They now realize that a lot of event patterns that we have are just rewrite over the top of our existing DNA while we're alive in a given lifetime. I call it epigenetics. And that information is transferred to any child you have during this lifetime. So you are really kept up to date. And you pass that up to date on if you have children, even. Okay. So we're very current. And believe me, everything you do is recorded. So when we had a conversation back earlier about doing stuff that either starts to move you upward in evolutionary and moving upward in that chart and ultimately having that goal or direction, or something that is rather demeaning to other people or makes less of the creator's other creations. Because one of the things I have read in here is that the creator created it all. You can use God, you can use whatever name you want. I'm just talking about the creation itself, of which we are part. Okay. Anyway, that creator does not take kindly to any of his creation demeaning any other part of his creation. Okay. That does not get you brownie points unless you're thinking of the brown of somewhere else.
Right. Just shit points.
Right. Okay. That will drag you down. Okay. So if you want to get the hell out of here, be nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's other worlds, there's other levels. Look, the next level's up. Oh, I was going somewhere with this soul here. Okay. So you've got to work your way up to the awareness of that soul. That's the only way you're going to get to being able to move on to the next triplicity, if you will. Because there's things there in that soul that are needed, that are the ticket to ride, if you will, to make that connection. And you can be here as long as it takes, learning which way is up. Or you can make choices that raise you up. That's your call. And but anyway, so once you have worked your way up to that soul, and now your consciousness and the consciousness of that soul are one, okay, then you have choices. According to the story we're studying, is you can then come and go by your own choice whether you want to incarnate or not. Prior to this, you are totally subject to when the soul decides it wants another incarnation. Otherwise, you're not getting here. Every one of these human beings here was ordered. Nobody got to this planet by accident. In terms of the creative force of the creator for this planet. Okay. I don't know if somebody dropped by and dropped a few ETs or something, that's different. But that which is originated for this planet. Okay. And then you can be up in those other levels, and time doesn't exist there. Okay. But and interestingly enough, even in physics of consciousness, for time here, time comes in chunks. But our brain loops fast enough so that we see a continuity that, like, like a clock. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes.
Kind of like one of those cartoon pages where notebook where you move it and it's each a page, but you animate it like a cartoon, like creating a cartoon.
It could be, except that in this case, the chunks come. We don't create them. You're subject to the chunks. Okay. But he's just saying that we loop so fast that it looks like there's no space in between.
When we talk about sovereignty and stuff, that doesn't sound like freedom.
What do you? Oh,
you're subject to it. This is kind of like a prison in a way. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of freedom in any of this here.
There isn't down here. You literally cannot leave. For the most part, you can't leave. There's a rare accident that occurs every now and then for the percentage of people who are here where it's truly an accident. And that's what your material you study says, that the only otherwise you don't get out. You can't leave. And some people do commit suicide, but look at the relatively low number, because you know what that takes to do that. Has to be either an extreme derangement where you're not conscious and consciously connecting, with that soul or whatever. But you can't just say, oh my God, I want to die, and die. You don't have that power.
Yeah.
No, you're pretty much here. I mean, how many choices do you have?
I don't know. None.
I don't know. How tied are you into your world? And anybody else could ask the same question.
Yeah.
Because you got umpteen reasons. I can't do this because. I can't do that because. I can't do that because. You can answer your own question. Because I have to do this on Friday, and I got all these bills to pay over here, so I have to do this, or I can't leave those people because they would be unhappy. I don't care. You're physically tied, you're emotionally tied, and you're mentally tied down here. This is what these lower three realms are.
Yeah.
And you do keep coming back until you have created the consciousness and gets to the level of that soul. You've had that, what's called third initiation, which in the masteries, I think they really call it the first one. But we've got a couple before that. They were all demonstrated in Christianity. So you've got the birth, the baptism, the transfiguration, the crucifixion, and the resurrection.
Yeah.
And then you're out. Okay. So that's life here. And like I said, you need, every time you come down, you need the basic three: food, shelter, and clothing. They're not provided. You read in Life and Teachings, and when you hit the next level, they are provided.
That's a pretty good incentive.
It should be. I think that particular book to me is like a cosmic can opener to consciousness, to really start to free you up, because what they'll tell you, you do not have to die. There is no death. If you choose to play the game the way the game is played to win, there is no death. That's part of what you were talking about earlier in terms of the choices of your actions. Okay. If you want to, because you've got to move on up to be able to have those freedoms. We have very little freedom on this planet.
Right.
That was one of the things that I remember in those materials. It said that the freedom was the lowest, and I'm not going to use the right word, benefit, because it wasn't benefit, but attribute, maybe the lowest attribute of Sirius, the star Sirius, or the lowest aspect. It was one of the two. And that, we have a little of that, but we have very, very little freedom on this planet.
Yeah. And it seems to get tighter.
Well, yeah, that may be temporary or this planet's been around for a long time. It's gone through a lot of cycles, and we have various cycles and challenges and whatever else. But basically, yeah, freedom itself, innate. It's not innate in this planet. We can create it through our consciousness, but I don't think there's too many people who are working on that at this point in time.
Now, it's hard to even be aware of the need to work on it.
Yeah, you're too busy running in place.
Right. A lot of times something has to jolt you into that, I think.
Yeah. Well, you have to think about it. Pick up Life and Teachings. That'll jolt you into it faster than anything else, I think. Just the presentation of that material and the indication that, look, there's people on this planet who do have those qualities and choices. We don't.
Right. And you say on this planet. That's part of this planet.
Yeah.
Those dimensions. Still part of the planet.
Yes. Just like Shambhala is part of this planet. Okay. And what I'm saying is, then when I say that, is that chart that you've got in all those dimensions, you start at the bottom, work your way to the top. The top is Shambhala. So that's all that I'm making a point. That's all on this earth. Yeah. Shambhala was a physical place at one point. It's not viewed as one right now. You may see it or experience it in the etheric, but the physicality of it did exist on this planet.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that kind of changes it a little bit. That's a perspective switch there. I think that may help.
How?
Uh, going up even into the next higher levels of it, you're still a part of this. You're still a part of the system here.
Right.
It's not like you're moving to the other side of the cosmos. You're still a part of this.
No, there's nothing cosmic about what we're doing here,
Yeah.
frankly. And I specifically use that word because if you went back to Blavatsky talking about this planet, and she indicates, though, that there is no place for the weary traveler to land and stay on this planet. Right? You remember
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yes, I remember that well.
that?
Yeah.
So what happens is when you do get up to the top of that chart, the first thing they're going to ask you is to say, look, you're here, but you can't stay. Now, where do you want to go?
Mm. Now, in Life and Teachings, they talk about living forever, but are they living in the same place, or are they leaving there, and are they packing up and moving, or?
But first of all, I don't believe that the people in Life and Teachings were at that, living on that level. The mother was, in terms of she went and
Yeah.
went further up because she wanted to learn more, is what was said. And then she would come back down, like for Christmas or for the holidays or something.
Right, right.
Okay. And so we're not talking with them in the same having experienced this same journey all the way to the point where they get kicked out. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so the point is, if you really succeed to get all the way up there, then you're gonna get kicked out of the joint.
Get evicted out of your own house.
Well, it wasn't ours. That's the thing.
Ah, there you go.
Here for a visit. I had a friend actually saying that when I was younger, who always used to say, I'm just here for a visit. Yeah. So, and he remembered earlier lifetimes where he was elsewhere and operational and busy and so on and so forth. But he would just say, I'm just a visitor here.
It's on vacation?
No, he remembered flying around in spaceships, a pilot of one. Okay. He had said, I'm sure he didn't say that to very many people, if any.
Yeah.
That he remembered that. But he was down here. He was high tech. He helped create some of the high tech medical equipment we have now. Okay. I just happened to meet him in college, and then met him again 20 years later when he was really doing a lot of the work that he did here. And then, but that was always his comment. I don't know. I'm just a visitor here. And, but he was here to do something. He did it, and he's no longer here.
Wonder where he is.
He's probably back out flying around somewhere. I expect so. Yeah. I mean, because the thing about that is you can come down here and you do have the ability at a certain point to choose to come back down here or not. Okay. That's after that third. And you have continuity of consciousness, and you can come and go. So it wasn't like he had to wait for some soul of his to to do that. He'd come down from elsewhere for a purpose and then is gone when I think he accomplished that purpose. So we do get visitors that way. And the other thing to look at is when somebody does get to that point, they got to go somewhere. And that's up to that next triplicity, that what's spiritual triad on your chart. But then they're conscious, they don't need the body, but they're still learning, they're still working, they're still consciously active. Okay. And then when you get to the triplicity above that, which is the final three, you are moved out of having any connection with this planet in terms of creation of a body, because you're moving now into pure consciousness, pure light, but it doesn't need anything wrapping it around it. It is just like a ball of pure light. I guess we look out and we see the stars and we see a bunch of them, right? And the remark that's made in the material you're studying is that, I'm not going to get this exactly right, but that you leave, and then it talks about you being cosmic, in a cosmic area, and a fixed point of pure light. So then you've got your place, is what's implying, I believe. You can read it. The words are all in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so does this correlate in any way to all the dimensions that these guys are talking about on, on YouTube and these other shows and stuff?
I think so, because they're generally talking about 4 and 5D.
Yeah.
They're already in 3D. And humanity, according to those charts that you're looking at, is a 5-dimensional creature. So basically, you've done the lower 3 triplicity. That's what we're living in right now. Then you have connected with that soul and become conscious, and it connects you to the next triplicity, which in that chart is the spiritual triad. Okay, so now, and so one of that triplicity is in the mental realm, and then there's 2 more, the Buddhic and the Atmic plane. So that makes 5 from your very bottom, and that's humanity. And that's because once you move out of there, now you are up in the monadic plane, and that's not considered human anymore. In terms of the human qualities that you asked the question about, and when they're talking about, when all of that started, oh, you just got to go to 4 and 5D, and I thought, yeah, right. Just go there,
Yeah.
You got to work your way there. And so maybe they think they're going to light the whole planet up and it'll take everybody with. I don't know. Nor do I care whether you have to work for it or if it's given to you. It's the qualities of the universe we're talking about, and the qualities of this planet, for starters. This planet needs development. This planet is behind the 8 ball in terms of its system that it's part of, which will then weaken that whole system. So the joint needs to be cleaned up. And the subjective realm, it is said, has already gone to 5D for the planet. It's just the objective realm, which is us and this physicality that we're dealing with, that's the trash bin at the moment.
Is that pretty far? You think that's pretty far ahead in your?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be probably nice if it all comes together, but I don't know whether it will or not.
No, guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we all need to be working.
Yep. Yep.
We can't really sit on our butts and expect a whole lot to happen.
You sit on your butt and do nothing in today's world, and you can have some really ugly stuff happen to you. Yeah. So, I mean, you need to pay attention. But like I said, kindness is a very key word. Just being kind. And there's another subtlety. And I think the Indians used to do it. And it could have been Atlanteans, it could have been any Indians, and it could have been anybody else either for that matter, that used to say, I see you. Okay. Now that is significant in as much as what I've really said, if I'm looking at this person and seeing them, is I'm letting you know that I have registered you in my consciousness, that you exist in my consciousness. Now, that might seem like no big deal, but when we talk, as we have, about consciousness, and there's always that duality there, the invocation, evocation that you're talking about in terms of learning and is coming in for the age of Aquarius, is you put the material in that you are reading. And we already know, they've said 1,000 times, it already exists in consciousness, but there's probably more related to it. So that what oftentimes happens, I never used to be able to figure this out when I was 20, and why is this happen? I would read actually one of the books you're talking about now, and I would come back to it a week later and I'd read it and I'd say, I don't even remember reading this. This is not what I read. Okay. Because my comprehension of it mentally now is far greater. And everybody used to experience it. It wasn't just me. So it was, I don't think we attribute it to magic. I think we just attribute it to having brains that weren't too smart or something.
Right.
We
Okay.
remember what we read. But the reality was, yes, the words were the same printed words, but they all now had expanded meanings, because in the process from when the original reading and the next one, the brain itself, which functions on electromagnetics, went and found the other and aligns with the material that's already in consciousness. And now I have a much better understanding of what those words represented. You do it all the time, don't you?
Yeah.
Material?
Yeah, that's why I continue to read them. Because it really does come together.
And
I never expected it to be able to comprehend some of these things.
no, and well, and that is, I think those books say that the new form of prayer for the Aquarian age is invocation, evocation. In other words, your reading that book invokes the subject matter. It's in your mind now. It has invoked. It has done its portion of the electromagnetic scenario. And you give it a little bit of time, because we live in time, and come back to it. And now you have so much more of an understanding and awareness of what those words represented,
Yeah.
that it pulls you up, it lifts your consciousness up, it builds it in.
Yeah. The key, I think, was the first time, you said the first time you have to read it all the way through. Don't think about it. Don't try to understand anything.
Right.
Even though I did for a long time, of course. But,
But it still was different when you came back, right?
Right. But get through the whole book.
Yeah.
And then you can, go back to section and question or whatever. But the first time, just get through it and get it in.
Yeah, because you're not going to understand it for
You have the
starters.
foundation, right?
Yeah. The reason you're not going to understand it is that the authors of those particular books are function in those higher dimensions. Okay. They're there. They've lived it. They understand it. They have a whole nother level of understanding of that. And each of those dimensional levels has a different frequency and a different way that they function, the energy itself. So if somebody is on that realm and then you read the material and you now have been able to connect with that material that was written by somebody higher, it's going to lift up your consciousness. That's how you're going to build in your consciousness. And that's why you don't try to understand it, because then you're limiting it. You've got a three-dimensional mind. Then, and everything down here, you can know it 6 ways to Sunday. Okay. So if you go try to figure out those words that are really fourth dimensional, you will tack your third dimension consciousness to it and limit it. That's why I'm saying don't try it, just read it. Just let your eyes cover the material. Because I think they say this eye, I think it's the right eye goes to the brain, the left eye goes to the Buddhic plane, which will help lift you up. So, most of the time you're only reading stuff that was written by somebody who's got a three-dimensional mind, and they might be reading somebody else's stuff and trying to digest it and give you another viewpoint, but it doesn't lift you up.
It really puts a whole different spin on people reading fiction books then, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
What,
And I would imagine that most of the fiction, well, what you're reading is designed to be truth of that material, and a fiction book is designed, everybody knows that's not designed to be truth. It's designed to be an interesting story that holds together with all the inductive deductive logic so that you believe it, but you also know it's a piece of fiction. That material you're reading is not meant to be a piece of fiction. It's meant to be the passing along of information from individuals who function either on this level or are putting together information that a number of people who function on those levels have left behind throughout history, their experiences. So yeah, no, you build it in. I've had other people. I know. I remember I mentioned to you one of the people over in Arizona. I said, "How are things going?" He said, "Well, I'm slowly building it all in. All of those levels of awareness and the understanding of it, and you know, so." But the Aquarian age, which is just coming in, aided by Pluto in Aquarius, which will speed us up a little bit personally as individuals and humanity. But the Aquarian age itself is our solar system now will have the backdrop of the constellation of Aquarius and the benefit of the energy and understanding and all that Aquarius is. We will build the next 2,000 years with that quality of energy. We've had for the last 2,000 plus years the age of Pisces. And we built our world with that energy, of which the Christian religion was one of the things that got built with the energy through those 2,000 years. Okay. I anticipate that the age of Aquarius will explain. It'll be the second coming. They say there's going to be one, and when people have believed it as long, been told it for 2,000 years, it's going to happen because there's a pattern up in front.
Right. We're invoking it in
Yeah.
a way, right?
Just like I think there's what the Imam
The
Persian,
Imam Mahdi, yeah.
that I don't know if this was really the one or not, but if it wasn't, they'll still be waiting for him. If this was the 13th, was it the 13th or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I remember when Khomeini came back from Paris, and that was a discussion. But whether they've determined that it was or not, I don't know. And I'm not interested in arguing the point with anybody over it. Just the point is that until if he's not, then it has to be satisfied before they'd ever go to the next one. That's the way we do things here. We build a thought form that strong, and under that amount of time, it will have to be satisfied. Because there will be a certain number of humans who won't move on until it is.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, interesting.
So you find a lot of these things interesting. What do you do with them after that?
I sit on them. I don't know. They're just.
Well, the question, I guess, would be: was your life better now or before all this material?
Oh, of course,
Why?
I'm at whatever. I found some level of peace inside myself, so that's huge. You can't. There's nothing. You can't replace that. You can't make that up, or you can't. There's nothing that you would trade that for. There's nothing I would trade that for. So, and all these things help you become more aware. The books, understanding the initiation process. It helps you become more aware of yourself as you're growing too, and you can stay at peace through it, through even some of what, I don't know, maybe some people would consider harder times, because we're still subject to all of that.
Well, there is a saying that before enlightenment you chop wood and haul water, and after enlightenment you chop wood and haul water. Okay, so, but it probably has something to do with how you feel, what you think about when you chop wood and haul water. But life is a journey. Some people are in park. Some people are in a slow walk.
Yeah.
And then there's some who now have, I don't know, do they feel the call? Do they feel a pull? Is there something driving them, or are all those things individualistic, but yet some people just can't not pursue that elusive unknown?
Yeah, I guess it has to be that individual thing there. The soul has to be in charge of that. It has to be that.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a woman friend that I knew, and this would have been in my 20s, and we were having a discussion, because this was a topic of conversation in those days anyway. And she said, well, this is not my lifetime for it. you know, my spiritual journey, I thought, oh, you were really lucky because she actually went and built sandcastles, by the way. I mean,
Yeah,
like, I'm not talking about just building big ones, the big,
yeah,
yeah. But I thought, oh, you're so lucky to know that.
yeah. That's
Because the pursuit is a pursuit, and if you got to make it, you got to make it. If something's driving you inside to do that, you won't rest until you do. But nobody
right.
chooses you except yourself.
Right, yeah, but there's something that's driving you, and there's no turning around from that.
Yeah.
And you would give up you would just, you'd fight, you'd give up everything, it's a no hold barred kind of, uh, at all cost,
Excuse me.
you know, no matter what it takes, doesn't matter, even if you don't like it, it still doesn't matter, you know, who's to not like it, I guess is the question. Who's not liking it?
Yep.